Alrighty, so first of all, thank you for coming. I wasn't sure, I know that the literacy one had a great response to it and people were looking forward to math also. So I mentioned right away to Katie, I said, when I put this presentation together, really we should be doing this for even our hired paraprofessionals because you're going to hear more today than they even have had. So I think it'd be a great thing to kind of take the show on the road to each school and do it for them as well. So though it's hard to take them away from the kids to get time to do that. So um, today we're going to look at supporting a foundation of mathematics in WASA, what it looks like. My name is Kim Pearson. I am a current math specialist in the district. There's two of us. Typically, I handle elementary, and then Mark Schomer, he handles more of the middle school, high school. And then there's a lot of things that we team together on. So this is our first year together. He's been in the district 3 years, I think, and now this is my first year in this position. And we've discovered we're kind of dangerous together. So there's a lot of things, we're both really go-getters, and there's a lot of things that we have happening right now. So my background, I spent 28 years, sounds old, 28 years as a classroom teacher in kindergarten and first grade at Riverview School. I also went to Riverview School, so that was my home base for many, many years. So I've spent 15 years on math leadership teams. I've done a lot of curriculum planning in the district, been on report card committees, done a lot of professional development to our staff, worked through and became an Apple certified teacher, and now recently AVMR trained, and that means Advantage Math Recovery. So you'll hear a lot about that today. It's kind of a new tool for our toolbox that we've brought in that I think will greatly affect our volunteers. So that's kind of a little bit of a background on me. Our goals for today, we're kind of going to get an overview of what math looks like in the Wausau School District. I'm going to introduce you to the Advantage Math Recovery Program. I'll give some suggestions for supporting teachers and students, and then we'll have some time for some questions. So first of all, when we think about math, feelings about math. If you think like as a student, anyone want to share? Like, how did you learn in math? What was your basic go-to in math? I know for me, a lot of it was following procedures. Not quite, I thought I had a good understanding, but honestly, when I started teaching first grade math, the way it is now, I didn't have understandings like I should have at that high level. So anyone want to share about your experience as far as learning math? Yeah, go ahead.
I actually have an engineering degree.
Okay.
I love math. The way the kids do it is a little different, and so sometimes we YouTube how they do it now, but
yep.
I've sort of been able to figure out why they're doing it that way.
Yeah, I know at the beginning it was like Common Core math, kind of this taboo. But when you start out at those younger grades, figuring out what they're trying to get them to do, you have a different view, for sure. So I'm glad that you came to that. Anybody else? Yeah.
I'm similar, grew up in the age that I grew up, math was a lot of repetition, just doing steps. Wasn't about understanding,
yep.
Just how many problems you can do.
Math facts, right?
Right.
Anyone remember time tests?
Oh my God.
Right?
So yeah, I struggled with math there. I mean, I loved math, but then I also hated it. And so.
Flashcards, yeah. Yeah,
I
for
went
sure.
through Singapore math with my kids.
Oh,
and
yes.
I really liked that.
Singapore math is great.
But just the whole concepts and like understanding how the numbers work together. It's like, this is what.
Yes, and you're going to see a lot of connections with AVMR today and that Singapore math. So anybody else? No, kind of similar experiences, I'm sure. So now as a parent, we kind of touched on it a little bit. What have you had success with and what are you challenged with in the classroom or with your own kids? I know that a lot of people were really challenged with helping their kids out when they brought their math home. For sure, kind of how do you do it now? And then I think the first go-to is kind of showing them the algorithms of carrying the one, bring down here, and a little bit of place value, but any successes or struggles you've had?
The challenges with the language. If they use a different language than what I grew up with, then I'm not able to communicate with the kids when I'm helping them out.
Yeah, definitely a barrier if you can't speak the same language of math. Yeah.
I'm challenged with
blurting out answers before they think about it, and they just, it's wrong, and they don't even think before they shout it out.
Right. And it's hard to get kids involved in what we call that productive struggle. Like, well, let's think about that. And I think our first instinct is like, no, that's not right. And then we're gonna learn today of like some different approaches we can have to get them to decide, is that right? Does that really make sense? What do you know about these numbers? But what we're finding is a lot of kids know just like a 9, the bare number, but they're struggling to like really visualize the quantity of what 9 looks like. So when you don't have that background and you can't visualize quantities of numbers, you're going to struggle with your number sense. So we basically say, why is math so different? Like, why did it have to change? We were doing fine, right? So basically, math in careers today, it requires the understanding and the reasoning of math and then applying it to the real world. So if you come out of math and you can just follow procedures, you're going to struggle in the real world when you have to reason your numbers and you have to apply the numbers to what you're doing. So how many people in algebra or geometry are like, why do I need to know this, right? That was the question kids, I think, high school students probably always asked, right, Karen? Why do I need to know this? So what we do know is math facts and algorithms do not prepare learners for higher math. If they don't have that understanding, they're not going to be prepared. We know that 1 out of every 5 students drops out of high school. Why? An inability to pass algebra. So, and what is algebra? It's reasoning of numbers. Okay, it's not really following procedures, but it's actually thinking about numbers and quality, equality, and they struggle with that because they're lacking the foundations before that should have happened. So the inability to reason with numbers is the #1 factor for determining if students will struggle. So basically what I just said, if they cannot reason, they're going to be struggling in algebra. So what are we doing in the Wausau School District for this? What has changed? So being here 28 years, I've seen a lot of change in math, where, like anything else, that pendulum always goes back and forth, right? So when I started teaching, it was pretty much game-based. Lots of centers, game-based. We didn't really have much of a core resource. Then we started to transition of, no, you know what, we need some more direct instruction with our kids. So what was the solution? Adopt a resource and let's follow it. And then once we adopt the resource, let's do it to fidelity, okay? Nothing else, just that resource. Well, all the research now tells you that your kids and the kids in the classrooms, the #1 factor is the teacher, not the resource. So when you're doing fidelity to a resource and not bringing in that teacher creativity and magic, you're gonna struggle because that resource is not made for all students. So the #1 factor is the teacher. So now what we've learned is we're trying to find that happy medium. We need a resource, but we want to have fidelity. I'm sorry, not fidelity, but integrity to the resource. We know that we have to have a scope and sequence that we follow within the district no matter where you are. We don't want Grant and South Mountain to have totally different experiences. If kids travel back and forth, you need to generally be in the same place. So we have integrity to the resource by using our standards and, but then allowing that creativity to be brought in as well. So we are now beginning what we call number routines and number talks. If you've been in classrooms, you may have heard about that. We're gonna talk about a resource, Ready Classroom, along with the iReady component. They're actually 2 separate things. One is a core curriculum resource, and one is an add-on program. And then I'm gonna talk about Advantage Math Recovery, that AVMR. So a number routine, what does a number routine really look like? We didn't have number routines. So number routines are designed to be quick. They're designed to be getting kids talking about numbers. So this would be an example that we do, and it's called SPLAT. Let me go right here. Okay. So students are presented with a total, and then there's a part that's going to be under there. and we're going to have a conversation about that. So let's say we're working in the doubles. This is what it would look like. We're giving them a couple visuals to rely on, but they don't have any pencil, paper, or anything with them. This is strictly a class talk. So it would start, and we would show some dots, and I'd show them, and then I would be quickly covering them up. I don't have access to that shield right now. But then I would simply start by asking them, how many do you see? So we want to get kids, after they learn to the kindergarten, first grade, where they're counting by ones, we want to get them out of that unitary stage and into what we call a composite stage, where now they're not trying, we flash it quickly and cover it because I don't want them going 1, 2, 3, 4. I want them to say, there's 3, there's a 3 and a 2. A double is 6 and 2 more is 8. That's what our kids are doing now in mental math. That's what we want them to do. So we talk about the total, and then they'll say 3, 2, 1, splat. And now they look at it, and we start having a conversation. Okay, the question is, how many are covered by the splat? Tell me a number that's going to be too big. Tell me why. So they might say, well, 10 is going to be too big because we know our total is 8. Okay? Tell me a number that's going to be too small. Well, I think there's more than 1 covered because I only see 4 left and we need to get to 8. So it's sparking these conversations about quantity and really understanding what the number is. So then after we would go through and have that talk, and then they would make their guess, and then we'd be able to show them what that is. So now that we see this, an 8, what would that look like on a 10 frame? They know on a 10 frame, kids have to have these visual representations, and that's a big part that a lot of them are missing. So I'm going to talk about tools that we're really bringing in now. But they would visualize what 8 would look like on a 10 frame, and if I see 4 of them, well, some kids might look at it as a double. Some kids might do 5 and a 3, because we want kids anchoring to that 5. So just different conversations, bringing in different perspectives. During our number talk, it's really stressed, the listening is really stressed, listening to your peers, because I always would tell them, you may hear a way that you didn't think of that you might want to use next time. Like, you know what, so-and-so brought in, he thought about a double. If you thought about a double, touch your nose, So it's just a lot of conversations about those quantities. So that's one routine that we may engage in. Another routine that we would do is simply this one right here, a target number. Our target number is 12. Tell me how you can make it. Only using those numbers. Tell me where you can make 12. The 10 and 2, that's usually, especially if we're in T numbers, that's usually the first one, 10 and 2. 8 and 4. 5 and 7.
Can you do subtraction?
You can do any way. Target number's 12.
Yeah, 16 subtract 4.
Yep. I honestly, when the kids get so good with these quantities, I would even have one that say 10 plus 8 minus 6. That's when you know, okay, we're getting them where they want to be now. Now they're becoming flexible with the numbers. You get so many kids, how can I make 12? 6 plus 6. And that's all they go to, 6 plus 6, or 10 and 2. Nope, there are a lot of ways to make 12. So encouraging that flexibility within the number also. So they love these, like it is just such a challenge, and then we usually, put their quantity up here when they don't have pencil paper, they have nothing. So we put their way up here and put their name by it, and they like that ownership. So just an example of some things that we're doing to really encourage that mental math, as well as reinforcing knowing the quantities. All right, let me get back to. Alrighty, so we know that when children have a strong number sense, they know everything about the number, they know the quantity of the number, they know what it looks like, they know how to find it, how to get to it. We know they're good problem solvers. We know that they are flexible and they're fluent. We also know that they can definitely they can understand, relate, and connect numbers and mathematical concepts. We also know they're able to talk about it. That's really hard to start. You know, they just wanna raise their hand and give you an answer. And then you ask them the question, well, how did you know that? That to me is going to be a big part when you're in math classrooms. That question is number one. How did you know that? And then, of course, they're gonna respond, my brain just knew it. Nope, tell me more. And I would always say, if you're teaching a kindergartner right now, how would you teach them to do this? So we have to kind of drag that out of them, because being able to communicate their thinking, teachers, high school and middle school teachers will definitely thank you later. So we also know that when they have good number sense, they're able to choose those effective strategies. So yeah, we could count by ones, you know, to get the answer, no problem. But wow, when I know and I'm able to count by twos or find numbers in groups quickly and put them together that way, I know that's gonna be a much more effective strategy. I know that I could count by ones on my fingers, but if I know how to start at a big number and count on, that's gonna be much more effective. So that number sense component is really, really important. So let's take a look at our resources. So we have Ready Classroom is our core resource. It is a multi-day lesson approach to encourage that deep understanding of the concepts and also to work with fluency, okay? Now you are gonna see this word, procedural fluency, okay? And it does a great, when I started with that curriculum, I thought, wow, this does a great job teaching the teachers how to teach math. Like if you didn't think about numbers in this way, it did a great job teaching you, okay? It does teach kids procedures, which when we went all the way on the pendulum to saying just fidelity to the resource, we discovered a problem. They relied too much on procedures and they weren't doing the other things. So we still have Ready Classroom as our core resource. It has an explore, develop, and refine connection that you'll see, kind of a pattern to follow. But knowing that we also had to kind of bring in this AVMR to work on some parts that were missing. Is there a perfect core resource out there? Absolutely not. No matter what resource you have, teachers are gonna bring in something else. Okay, if there was one perfect one, everyone would be doing it, right? So I'm gonna show you just a little video that explains a little bit about Ready Classroom. Is the volume okay?
We believe that all students can learn grade-level mathematics given the right access and support. iReady Classroom Mathematics and EdReport's top-rated program follows a unique approach that is proven to work. This program invites students to be active participants in math class and helps them become independent mathematic thinkers. Prepare students for high-stake assessments with quality practice that reflects the rigorous expectations of the standards, and uses differentiation in service of mastering grade-level standards, enabling students to reach their greatest potential. With iReady Classroom Mathematics, it's all about getting young people to talk about math, because when students do the thinking and talking, they can better process, synthesize, and retain ideas, leading to greater understanding. Students are guided by the 6 simple steps in the Try, Discuss, Connect routine. It's effective, it's powerful, and it works.
I'm gonna stop just for a minute because I really wanna talk about that. It said to get the students talking about math, right? I think there was a time where we thought the more we talk as teachers, the more we talk, the more they're going to learn. Kids don't just learn by listening, kids learn by doing. Kids learn by them doing the talking. So now there's a big emphasis that even as you're working with students or your own kids, they should be doing most of the talking. We should be doing the listening and be ready to provide the right questions. But they should be doing most of the talking. That's how they are learning and remembering.
iReady Classroom Mathematics uses a blend of print and digital resources to support both students and teachers. The main instructional component for students is the student work text. This 2-volume write-in student edition combines both lesson instruction as well as practice and problem solving into one resource. Students also have access to digital resources through the Student Digital Experience. Here, students can access the Student Bookshelf, which houses the online student work text and offers multiple functionality tools such as note-taking, highlighting, text-to-speech, and an online calculator. Within the My Videos, students can browse and watch the developed session videos. These instructional videos give students the opportunity to review session concepts, address unfinished learning, or supplement their learning at home. And to continue the math conversation at home, the Family Resources section includes access to a unit-level video and a family letter for each lesson available in 8 languages. To help with problem-solving strategies, your student will find a suite of digital math tools. These tools are designed to aid students as they explore concepts and deepen their conceptual understanding. In grades 6 through 8, students also have additional digital math tools powered by Desmos that allow them to explore concepts using the graphing calculator, scientific calculator, and geometry tools. Interactive learning games are available for students in grades K through 8 and show students the visual and creative nature of math. Based on growth mindset research, the learning games build math fluency and conceptual understanding in a highly interactive and engaging way for all students. All assets within the student dashboard are accessible on laptops, desktop computers, and Apple-supported iPads. The main instructional components for the teacher include the teacher's guide and the lesson PowerPoints.
And I will stop right there. So when you look at our core resource, you can see it has a lot of components. It brings in that digital component if needed. It's really flexible as far as if kids miss a day, things like that. You could even send things during the day. You may have seen it during virtual learning lessons, some of the video lessons, so it has a lot of components for that. Very good at having the kids learn different procedures to maybe help them in their understanding. Okay, so that was our core resource of Ready Classroom. Then it also has another component called iReady. And you, as a parent, you may have heard about the diagnostic. They're taking the big diagnostic. And basically it's a digital component. It has digital instruction, but it's based on individual needs. So you'll learn more about it, but basically kids will take one diagnostic test, and it's an adaptive test, meaning that if they answer it correctly, it automatically will give them a bit more of a challenge. If they answer incorrectly, then it will get a little bit easier. So now then I always wondered, I'm like, well, it's a digital, what if they just guess? You know, it's multiple choice, they're just guessing, and then they give them multiple questions in that to make sure that the understanding is really there. So it's not just a one and done, okay? So in WASA, we get the diagnostic 3 times a year, and then they're placed on an individual learning path that they can do within the classroom. That is not their instruction, that is a supplement. It might be in a kindergarten, first grade classroom, it might be a center they go on. Some teachers might use it when kids come in from recess, just to get them settled in a little bit. Let's do 10 minutes on your iReady path, okay? So they use it in different ways. So you can watch this quick one, just a little bit about the iReady part.
Hi there, my name is Mark Bernstein and I work with Curriculum Associates, and we are the iReady people. Now I have 2 school-aged children, and often they go to the computer to do their schoolwork. They work in programs for math and reading, and I'm not real clear on what they're using, why they're using it, and the role that the software plays in their education. So the purpose of this video is to help you better understand what iReady is, how your child or children benefit from iReady, and how the classroom teacher uses iReady as a support resource. With iReady, you have 2 crucial components. First, an online adaptive diagnostic assessment, and then online instruction that is automatically assigned based on how students perform on the diagnostic. Don't worry, it will all make sense. What is an adaptive diagnostic? It's not simply an online test, and it's not something you or I ever took when we were in school. With an adaptive diagnostic, grades are not given based on performance, students are not penalized for poor performance, or rewarded for higher scores. The goal of the diagnostic is for students to get half the questions correct, half incorrect. That way we know exactly what students know and don't know. Do all students receive the same questions? The answer is no. The iReady assessment adapts to the student who is using it. There are thousands and thousands of questions within our question banks, and the assessment adjusts based on how students answer questions. For example, a 4th grade student might see a 4th grade geometry question. If that student answers correctly, he or she will see another geometry question that's slightly more difficult. If that student answers incorrectly, he or she will see another geometry question that's slightly easier. And if you're wondering, well, what if they just guess and get it correct? Don't worry, we ask enough questions to confirm that they truly understand the concept. An adaptive diagnostic informs educators. It is able to pinpoint exactly where students are in their math and reading skills, and does so down to the sub-skill level. Ultimately, an adaptive diagnostic saves time, reduces testing, and provides detailed insights into a student's needs and strengths. The iReady assessment adapts to the child's ability, meaning that children are being tested on their abilities, not the students next to them. iReady provides districts with a tremendous amount of information, therefore reducing the need to take additional tests. iReady provides detailed information into a student's strengths and needs. With most tests, students are given a score. Out of 50 questions, you get 40 correct, so your score is 80%, a low B. But the iReady diagnostic isn't like most tests. Your child doesn't receive a grade. Instead, your child receives instruction based on his or her needs. It's kind of like this. I have a Honda, and when I take it to the shop, a mechanic gives my car a diagnostic, and then comes out and tells me what's working and what's not working. Tire tread is excellent, fluids are fine, headlights are in good shape, but the brake pads need some attention. Once your child has completed the iReady diagnostic, teachers access reports that provide lots of data to better assist them in meeting your child's unique needs, whether it's providing enrichment to students who need more challenging work, on-level instruction, or helping fill gaps that your child might be lacking. It's a teaching tool for all learners. Teachers see reports like this one, a report that informs the teacher about student strengths, what the student does well, and next steps for instruction. So,
All right, I'm going to stop it there. This is very helpful to teachers because based on that diagnostic, it tells us, hey, this is what they can do already, okay? This is what they need a little bit more support with. So as a teacher, when I think of putting my small groups of differentiated instruction together, then this helps me decide that, you know what, this group is really solid in how to make 10. This group, they still need some anchoring to 5. So this helps me. Is that the only thing that I look at? Absolutely not. Because our everyday instruction, what we see in the classroom, that is a huge component and would always hold more weight based on how did they take the test, did they tap. If they go too fast, they will get flagged and the teacher will see that. Like if you have one, and it does happen, if you have one little darling that's just tapping to get done, right? It will flag them, and we can reset the test. The other thing is, if we feel like after they do this and they're put on their math path, if we feel it's not matching what we see in the classroom, as teachers, I can go in and change it. Say, you know what, I know this is way too easy. Based on what I'm seeing in the classroom, we're gonna bump them up. So I do have that flexibility as a teacher also. So this is another component. We have that core instruction. Now we have this added supplement. There are some districts, even if they don't have ready classroom core, they still are able to purchase this, and we hear that a lot. There are a lot of districts that have this iReady component for their kids. It helps with closing those gaps for the kids that need a little extra, but it also helps challenge the ones that need a little more. Again, the validity of it isn't perfect, right? So as teachers, there's still more things that we need to do. So that's kind of the Ready Classroom and the iReady. And then we have our third component, which is brand new, the AVMR. So to give you a little background, when I came into this position, we just started training our teachers into AVMR, which is Advanced Math Recovery. In fall, we finished all of our first grade teachers, okay, other than 2 who are on maternity leave. So everyone but 2 are already trained with this. Our next goal is to get all of kindergarten, all of special ed, and all of 2nd grade, okay? AVMR, the goal of Advanced Math Recovery is to determine the leading edge of the student's current knowledge and their most advanced arithmetical, let me say that right, math strategies. I don't know, how would you say it? I don't know, it's a tricky one. That's a tricky one. So, anyway, you can see it not only works with those gaps, but also those higher kids. What is the cutting edge of what they really know? Well, we know the best learning occurs when we push them just a little bit past that, okay? Using math recovery data, the teachers are able to significantly impact their whole class, small group, and one-on-one math instruction. So it's not just a whole group instruction, it's not a small group, it's not a one-on-one, you can use it in all forms. So that's why we say it's not another program, but rather it's another tool to help you differentiate with your kids, okay? So this is an example of a game that would happen through Advantage Math Recovery. Advantage Math Recovery is very game-based. We want kids playing math games. We want them having fun. We want them to be reasoning with numbers, not even knowing they're doing math, okay? Whether it's, you think about the good old card game of war. What are they working on? Higher, lower numbers. Well, now we're gonna play the game of war, and then we're gonna say war +1 or war +2. Get them familiar with numbers that are around those other numbers. So this is a game, Trash, that the kids absolutely love. And now even indoor recess, things like that, they always go to the cards to try and play Trash. So let's take a look at what an AVMR game now. Opposite of teaching procedures, so we have that component where we, give them some background on it, but now let's use it.
9, 3, 6, 9. 27. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 21, 18, 21, 24, 27. Another 27. Can't use this.
Can you put it in the trash?
A 9. Can't use that either. A 30. 27, 30. 24, 27, 26, 25, 24.
He just like did that.
3, 6. 21, 24, 23, 22, 21. The 30.
Okay, so you can see what he's doing. He's counting by threes, and whatever he can't use, he's throwing in, or he has already used, he's throwing in the trash. Okay, you can see sometimes he's able to do it in multiples, but sometimes like he has to count back by ones yet. Okay, eventually we want them to just be able to do the whole thing. Okay, we have AVMR will tell you, and this is what we have discovered is a huge gap with our K1 kids. AVMR will tell you whatever you count forward, you must count the same way backward. So if I'm counting 26 to 58 with my first graders, then I'm counting 58 to 26 also. Again, getting them familiar with the numbers around, forward, and backward. If I'm counting by threes, from 3 to 30, I'm counting backwards by threes, from 30 to 3. Okay, so working on that repetition of the numbers and the groupings of numbers. So this is an example of the types of things Advantage Math Recovery will do as far as bringing in these games. I'm going to show you some tools that they have also. The assessment that we do for Math Recovery is a one-on-one interview assessment. So it takes time on the teacher's part. And at first, when like the first grade teachers, we did our training, they thought, they'll kind of just test their at-risk students a little bit to see where they were. After they went through the training, they're like, absolutely not. I want to test my whole class and find out where they are now because we know what to do with them. If I might have kids playing trash, counting by twos, I might have kids playing trash, counting by nines. Okay, you can take one game through AVMR and apply it to all kinds of different levels. It works with, AVMR does a lot with visual representation for kids. And I know that's a big part of Singapore math also. If kids can't visualize what a number really looks like, not that a 9 looks like this, but a quantity of 9, what does it look like? It might be through arrays, it might be through 10 frames, and it might be through other tools here, but they have to have that visual representation, okay? So there are all kinds of games that Math Recovery works with for that as well. So what's going to happen, like I said, we'll continue the training, and we already have third grade teachers are like, can I hop on? Do you have extra room? So the goal is, we typically have to, it's out of Minnesota, so we typically have to bring people in, but now they offer, I'm gonna go through all of the training all the way up to become an AVMR champion. And then I will be able to provide the training for our district, which is great, because then I can also, I'm here for the support as teachers implement it. So that is, it'll take about a year of training, but then I'll be ready to roll. So AVMR has those foundational concepts of forward, backward counting, structuring numbers from 5, 10, 20, and 20, basic addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division strategies that will put them at their cutting edge. The assessments are very in-depth to find that just right spot. So it's similar to iReady, but that's a digital component. This is hands-on, what am I doing in the classroom with my peers and my teachers. And then a lot of the instruction through the games and play. So, in thinking about that, let's kind of explore math tools that you may see in the learner's hands nowadays. So one of them is math racks. These are also called Reckon Recs. We started, and this is kind of what we were given. You may have seen these, okay? And it was, you're right, it's always white on the right when you use them. White on the right. So, this is what we were given, and this was 6, 7 years ago, and they dropped them off in a big box in my classroom and said, hey, these are really great. Okay, no one had a clue how to use them. Okay, so now through AVMR and through a lot more research and discovery, we have discovered they are incredible and probably one of the most important tools. However, this is not a math rack they should see in kindergarten. In kindergarten, they're going to see a math rack that looks like this. Basically, you're starting at your foundation. They need to be anchored to the number 5. They need to know everything about 5. If I hide 3, if you see 2, how many am I hiding? If you see 4, how many am I hiding? If you see 1 and I want to make 5, how many more do I need? So you're doing addition, subtraction. If I have 5 and I take away the 2, or if I have 5 and you see 3 left, how many did I take away? You're doing all of that for them, just not that pencil paper right now. It's reasoning about the numbers. Once they can do everything to 5 and they can anchor to that 5, then their next rack looks like this. Favorite number. Okay, now it's a 10. But the beads are still anchored in the 5s. So they're seeing now, oh yeah, how those 2 5s will put together as a 10. So that's one of the assessments I do with kids for AVMR is I would say, all right, these are covered with obviously a better frame at that time. How many do you see? And what I'm watching for right now is are kids going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or are they going 5, 8, 8? That tells me right away where they're at. Can they see it as a group or are they in their unitary counting yet? So if you're working with kids and you have one of these and they continually are like 1, 2, 3, 4, nope. How many white do you see? 5. How many red do you see? 5. Okay, do it again. How many do you see here? 1, 2, 3. Nope. How many white do you see? 5. Is it always going to be 5 on the math rack? Yes. Let's start with 5. So just getting them to that component. So all the things I showed you with the 5, now we do with the 10. Okay? Then when they have addition, subtraction, everything, reasoning, again, no paper, pencil right here, just thinking about numbers. Then their next math rack could look like this. This math rack is going to encourage them, like it says up here, to start seeing numbers in different ways. So they saw, that could be, just over here could be 8. But now they can also see that this can be 8 by using your doubles. They start to reason about this a little bit more because they're so familiar with the 10. Now you'll start to hear them do some reasoning. Well, I know there's 10 on the top and then 4 more is that teen number. Or when I hide some, they'll say, all right, well, I know there's 2 red, there's supposed to be 5 red, so you have 3 over there. So they start just reasoning with numbers through 20 to get their answers, okay? So this is the one you'll see most common in the district, but this is personally my favorite. It's just more clear, okay? So you might see some of these, or you might even start to see some of these. It's still 20, but now it's making them get a different visual picture, okay? So this has been a part that has really been missing for us, we've discovered, is really including the visual representation for number and giving them multiple ways to use it. Okay, so that's kind of our goal with providing them all these different ways. So that's the math racks you may see. 10 frames. Okay, again, it's organizing numbers. It's putting them into an organization, so when I say 8, they could picture it's gonna be counters on 4 and 4, or some kids like who are still anchoring to that 5 and not doing doubles yet, they would visualize a 5 and a 3. So now, when I say, let's work on 8 plus 7, in their heads, when they have a visual representation, they're saying 8 plus 7. Well, if I move 2 up, I can make a 10, and then that 5 would still be there. That's 15. That's what we have kids now leaving first grade doing. They have that visual representation of being flexible and moving those numbers around, okay? So just another opportunity, and then adding the written component now, they'll put them like in what we call number bonds, with the total here, and then the numbers that made that, okay? We have, you may see, I brought some more that were just up there, but these cubes, this is always my aha moment as a teacher, because when I organized my cubes, I had them in 10 sticks. I'm like, 10's my favorite number, 10, we really want kids anchoring 10, right? Well, through AVMR, a whole bunch of them aren't even anchored to 5. So now my 10 sticks, of course, give them a different visual. So now they know that 5 and 5. So when we make 7, they might say, oh yeah, there's the 5 and the 2 more from this 5, that's gonna leave 3 left. So it just shortens their window, if you will, of what they have to be structured to. So now we have this visualization for them. This is a new one, they're called subitizing. Subitizing is the ability to look at a group of numbers quickly and basically not count them in that unitary model, but being able to see them in groups. So now we have these playing cards that will offer numbers in a variety of ways. There's the math rack, there's a 10 frame, we have tally marks, and fingers, okay? So now as they're playing games, they might be playing memory, they might be playing war, they may be doing, now we have different visualizations and visual representations of the number to get them used to that. So like I said, they can pull from a lot of different ways. Sometimes I might say, you know, I have a group, they really, really need work with those 10 frames. I can just pull the 10 frames out of here and put a memory game out, match the 10 frame to the bare number. Then I have another group where they're ready, we're mixing them all in. You're playing memory, but you're going to play memory with all the different visual representations. So kind of another nice tool in the toolbox. And this one I brought, this is an AVMR tool. And this works with sequencing of numbers. So what I'm finding right now is I have kids, especially with backwards counting. This is what I'm hearing. If I say, count back 48, and I'll tell you when to stop. This is what I'm hearing. 48, 47, 46, 45, 44, 43, 42, 41, 30, 39, 38, 37, and it is everywhere. So when we talk about AVMR, whatever you need to count forward, you then count backwards. I am filling this with different sequences of numbers and usually crossing the decades. So I would start 48 and then they see all of it. Then I would say choose one, let's cover it up. 48, 47, 46, and then let's cover another one. They still say the whole sequence, let's cover this one, say the whole sequence. So it's working on sequence of number, especially counting backwards. Kindergarten, you're doing forward, you're doing backwards, you're doing teen numbers, so 14 isn't 40, which you've probably heard. So this is a great tool to work with those sequence of numbers. And finally, good old fingers. I mean, how many times did we say, don't use your fingers? And kids are hiding them under the table, right? Well, your fingers, there's a direct link between bodily movement and brain activity. So students who use their fingers to solve simple single-digit arithmetic problems, most of the time get them correct, okay? Now, are there things we can do? Encourage? Absolutely. When they see 5 plus 4, I would love them to be able to go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are things we can encourage with the use of our fingers, but kids are using, and I've seen them use their fingers in incredible ways. I've had kids ask me in assessment, can you put your fingers out? Because it was bigger than 10. Can I use your fingers? But it is incredible because like if they have 17, minus 8, I see them literally going, because they know it's a 10 and a 7, and then minus 8, they'll be like, so they know to put that other 10 back out there. So there is a good reasoning that's going on with them. So, eventually do we want them off of that? Yep, but in those younger grades, if they need to do that, that's okay.
And when does that transition happen?
It, as far as not using your
Yeah.
fingers anymore, it really depends on the learner, but you can, when we talk about pushing them like to the edge of their learning, and just to start encouraging different ways. Show me what that would look like on the math rack. Show me what that would look like here. Can you talk to me about it? Is that number close to 10? What can we do with it? So you could start encouraging and, different things, but at those younger grades,
And so you think,
absolutely.
because I know like even in first grade when I was
Yeah.
helping with assessments.
Yep.
If they were at that point they were single unit finger
Yeah,
counting.
yeah.
But that would mean that they weren't, that was a not proficient.
Right.
Right, if they had to use, 1, 2, then
And
it
they're
wasn't proficient.
they're counting in a unitary manner. That's what we want to get them
Okay.
out of. We don't want them counting by units.
So that would be more the method of the unitary counting rather than
Yes.
just using fingers as a tool, that would
Yep.
be.
Yep.
Okay.
So we want, they're there, like I said, it's good reasoning that happens, and then I would say to them, tell me what you're doing with your fingers. Cause then you're encouraging that communication. So then they would have to say, well, I'm starting with 17, a 10 and a 7, and now I'm taking away 8. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so when they can add that component, eventually they start getting to that point where it's like, I don't need these anymore, like I can start to do it in my mind, okay? When we talked about AVMR and structured to 5, 10, 20, that means they can just tell you. So if I'm working on making 10 and they still have to use their fingers or a tool, they're not structured. I want to be able to say, what goes with 7 to make 10? 3. What goes with 6 to make 10? 4. That tells me they're structured in their number. If they're not, we're still gonna work on that structuring until they can do that. Because if they don't know 10, they're in trouble all the way, okay? But the difference is until we brought in AVMR, like that curriculum train, the core resource train just kept going. It's like we knew they didn't quite know it. We knew the digital component picked up a little bit, but the train just kept on moving. Now we have permission to do the assessment, stop the train, and say, you know what, for a week, we're putting that resource away, and we are just going to work on 10, centers of 10 in the classroom. So I think teachers finally feel like, okay, we can do that. So, because we know how important it is. So now, how can you support? Okay, there are different ways. First of all, we've insist that all students can do math, okay? And encourage that perseverance. That productive struggle is hard, and kids don't wanna do that. Do you need to give them a nudge? Yep, sometimes you do. But if they start getting into the habit of, I can work through this, and I can get there. And it's simply asking questions, okay? You can ask them, does this answer make sense to you? What was our total? Our total is 10. Well, can you say 5 and 14 makes 10? Get them reasoning about that. Some kids say, I'm just not good at math. My mom told me I'm not good at math. Oh, breaks my heart. Even when parents say, well, I wasn't good at math, so you're not gonna be good at math. Right? So I mean, especially our littles, they're open to the world. You know, we tell them you're good at math, let's just work at this. All students can learn. All students can learn math, all students can learn. Ask them to talk about, explain their thinking. Like I said, that main question, how do you know you're right? How do you know that it can't be this number? Earlier in SPLAT, when I said, what's a number that's too high? What's a number that's too low? Okay, constantly getting them thinking about the number. You showed me one way to solve the problem. You used a math rack. What would it look like on a 10 frame? You solved 8 plus 7 by scooting 2 from the 7 up. Now, is there another way you could solve 8 plus 7? Well, I could use a double, 8 plus 8, and take 1 away. So that's what we want them doing, always, and that is fabulous when you're working with those higher learners. They think, I solved it, I'm done. Nope, when I look at them and say, show me another way you could do that, they don't like that. But it's pushing them on the edge of their learning. There's not just one way. When they're listening to their peers and their number talk, that's what they're learning. There's not just one way to do this. The visual tools. If you see some kids that you're working with who are just really struggling, put those visual tools in their hands. I mean, absolutely, go up to the teachers. Do you have a math rack or do you have a 10 frame? We need to get a visual. Visual representations to these kids will really, really help with understanding. Accept all answers and then ask them questions about their answer. So very often, you know, we would say, if they say 5 plus 3 is 9, is it? Check that again, what do you think? What would make 10? 5 and 5, so 5 and 3, would that make 8? Would that make 10? Would it, and what I always do is like, when you see some that are get really frustrated, we wanna catch them before that, so then I might just offer 2 answers, or what if I did this? Show them, what if I gave 1 to make a 10? What would happen? But we really want to have them think about their answer, not just tell them right away it's right or wrong. Okay? And the last one, most important, make math fun. Okay? If a lot of times I think as volunteers in the classroom, they might say, you know, take them out and there's some cards, or make it fun. Bring a peer with them to be able to play a game, whatever that may be. I also came across, after I put this together, I came across this I'm going to send with you. And it talks about kind of norms that we want to see in math, positive norms that we want to see in our math class. So the first one, everyone can learn math to the highest levels, which we talked about, okay? They can believe in themselves. There's no such thing as a math person, okay? Mistakes are valuable. I would encourage mistakes. We talk about, oh my gosh, we actually produce more neurons when we make mistakes than you do by just listening and learning. So we really encourage mistakes and that productive struggle. Questions are really important, not just telling them right away, but ask them questions about the number, okay? Why does this make sense? Math is about being creative and making sense, not just getting an answer. Okay, in first grade, I would always ask the kids, what is that? I would show them equals. What does that mean? It means there's an answer coming next, because that's the procedure, right? Nope, it doesn't mean an answer coming next. What else do you think it could mean? And then all of a sudden, I would put like 4 plus 5 equals 3 plus 6. First grade. No, 4 plus 5 doesn't equal 3. And I said, well, I didn't write 3. I wrote 3 plus 6. So in first grade, we're talking about what that equals really means. It means the same as. This side has to be the same as the other side. So it's that making sense of what they're seeing. It's about making connections and communicating. We've talked a lot about getting them to talk about things. Representing it in different ways. It might be a picture, a graph, an equation. It might be a variety of math tools that we've looked at today. This one. We always thought the best math students were the fast ones, right? The ones that got done quick. A lot of times our best math students are the ones that take the longest because they are thinking, that the depth that they're getting to is deeper. they know that there's probably not one way to do it. They're thinking of other ways to make sure they're right. So that depth is more important than the speed, which is why you really won't see a lot of math timed tests anymore in classrooms. Math class is about learning, not just performing. Okay, a lot of people, especially in the older grades, to get that math grade, everything's about just that performance. It's about the progress, it's about the journey to get there. Okay, it's not just about that last final grade. So I'll send these with you, even if you want to use them. A lot of you are here, I know, with two hats, volunteers and parents, grandparents, whatever that may be. So I will send that with you today, just as reminders. And let's see, I think that is it. Yes, I had the last, if there are any questions that you may have, I have, and again, thank you so much for all that you are doing. We can't get enough volunteers right now. We're in our classrooms, and I had said to Katie, we're at, I think when COVID hit, you know, no one could come in the schools, and now we're really at a point where we need to bring people back because teachers really could use assistance and love having you come in to help with their learners. So my contact information is up there if you ever have any questions, want to learn more about something. That is where you can find me.